Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan, and today we're starting up the Halloween hype train with a brand new costume. I thought last year's Thor was a really big success, so I'm sticking with the Marvel superheroes, and this year I'm making the Star-Spangled Man himself, Captain America. As for the variation of Cap's suit, because Cap has a lot of costumes, I'm picking his full-on World War II regalia from Captain America, the First Avenger. I think there's a lot of fun layers happening here, there's some cool padding, and there's some amazing opportunities for weathering and wear effects on this costume. Another reason I'm picking Cap is because there's not a lot of how-to videos on YouTube for how to make a Captain America costume. There's a lot of reviews for cosplays, but those things can cost up to $600 for the whole piece. I don't have that kind of money, so I'm going to make my own and show you how to do it. I've spent a couple hours thinking through the various layers of this costume, and it seems like we're going to first need a base blue jumpsuit, more akin to a union suit as opposed to a romper, because I want that more rugged texture. And then cut the sleeves off of that and get two off-white or ivory shirts to make the sleeves and for the front pieces as well. I'm going with ivory as opposed to a full-on white because it'll be easier for me to weather. A lot of the work's already done for me. I don't need to dull down a bright white to sort of a yellowish tinge because that's what off-white already is. Then for the second layer, there's a lot of straps, a lot of belts I might be reincorporating, and a lot of carabiner clips I might need to get. Carabiner clips are what hikers and rock climbers use to attach themselves to the harness and the belay system. And there's a lot of various clips and buckles on this costume. I think carabiner clips might be the best way for me to pull this off. I also need to make a star, which I'll probably do out of a silver foam, and then maybe even cover it with aluminum flashing to give it a full-on metal look, but that might be decided later on. Also, there's a layer on top where it's just shoulder pads, and they're almost like strapped into the belt in the front and back, so I have to think about how I want to pull that off. Maybe I might get some cheap football shoulder pads, and then disassemble them and reattach them. I'll think through that a bit more once I get to that point. Then there's a belt for his bandolier, some leather pouches on his main belt for supplies and stuff, and a leg holster. This will require a lot of different skill sets to the Thor costume. Where Thor was a lot of fabricating and building things from foam and wood, this is a lot of detail work and reincorporating various pieces of clothing into a costume itself. This is more akin to the Spider-Man costume than it is to the Thor costume, but it's kind of somewhere in between. And then, of course, I have to take my shield, which I actually featured in my cheap Marvel props video, and give it a couple more pieces to make it a really nice cosplay item. I'll also need some foam for the chest piece and some various other incendiary zippers and buckles and straps. I think I have the entire part list. Blue jumpsuit, two off-white shirts, white straps, a lot of those, clips, buckles, two red straps, various belts, leather craft sheets, silver craft foam, Velcro, leather gloves, and boots. I think that'll do it. For now, at least. I imagine I'll run into more pieces that I'll need later on. But it's the last weekend of the month, which means Goodwill is half off the entire store. So let's head there and see what we can find. And hope the line isn't too long. I think I found what I needed. I might use these old football pads that I found as the actual base for kind of a muscle shirt, and then use a black textured sweater over top. And that might get me the look that I want. Now I just gotta wait in line. It's been a half an hour so far. All right, we're an hour in and we are almost at the checkout. I think it's gonna be worth it. I think it will be worth it. I'll see you back at home. It's a new day because Goodwill didn't have everything I needed, so I had to order a few things online. And after waiting an hour at Goodwill, all I wanted to do was come home and take a nap. But now that everything's finally arrived, I think I have enough pieces to finish at least the first base of the costume. So, got ourselves a blue jumpsuit. This is a Dickies suit from Amazon, about $30. It has the right rugged texture that I'm looking for. Has some pockets built into it. It feels right. It looks a little bit small though. I'm about 5'4", and this is a men's small. Usually that's the right size, but I hope it is. And then came across this at Goodwill. This is perfect. These are kids' football pads. So my thought is I can use this front chest piece as texturing or muscle layer for the front of the costume, and then somehow deattach these shoulder pieces and use them as the base for the shoulder pads. Because the shoulder pads are on top of the main costume, and this is all affixed to itself, so I have to find a way to disassemble it or weave the costume around it. But I think it'll work. We also have two off-white shirts. This is a short sleeve one that I use for the white on the stomach area of the costume that goes around to the back. And this is a long sleeve shirt that I'll use for the actual sleeves of the costume. I love this because it has that real rugged, kind of a dress shirt look, but it doesn't feel like a dress shirt. It kind of feels like, for lack of a better word, an army or military shirt. So that's perfect. And then I found this Captain America belt that I feel like I had to have regardless of the costume. So picked up that for about $3. Good find. And then we have some belts that I'll actually use in the costume. This is a brown elastic one that I'll use underneath the bicep and tricep that attaches the shoulder pad to the actual sleeve. So I'll be able to cut this up and use that. Got this long belt. I'm thinking I might use this for the bandolier, the chest strap, perfect size. And one more belt. This one, which I think I'll either use for the front, or I could use it for the leg holster as well. I do have a belt, like a regular belt that I wear a lot, that's brown and has that sort of good feel to it. I don't think I'll have to cut up or alter that front belt, that main belt, so I might be able to use my own here, but if I need to cut it up, I'll use this one. I bought the pieces. Now I need to think about how I actually want to build this. I think my first move is to cut off the sleeves of the blue jumpsuit and attach these guys. So I'm cutting right next to a seam that's built into the shirt. That way I'm not going to ruin the structural integrity of the shirt or have any frayed edges, because it's going to be a nice clean seam that's right there. It's going to keep this whole thing together. And then I guess I'll do a loop stitch to attach the white sleeve to this guy. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not the best sewer, as you can tell from last year's Halloween costume. So I might have to ask Lindsay to help me out. If this is a couple of years ago, I would definitely just hot glue it on, but I think I've kind of progressed past that, and I feel like the costume wouldn't be as good if I just hot glued it. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty proud of myself because I stitched on these arms and they're not falling off, and that's a great sign. As for the jumpsuit itself, I think it's a pretty good start. I do need to adjust the neckline, probably just a button here, maybe get rid of the collar, that'll look pretty good. Well, I think this costume is turning out pretty well, at least the base layer is. I can't wait to see how this whole thing turns out. So today we're at Joann Fabrics because we need to get all the pieces for the second layer of the costume. Last time we made the base with the jumpsuit and the sleeves, but today we're gonna try to add all the belts and buckles and all the little detail pieces. So let's head inside and hope we can find everything. Okay, we picked up a lot from Joann Fabrics, but I think we have everything we need. So, red buckles for the front of the costume. Got about 2 yards of this, so I think about a yard for each strap should be enough. Got 1 yard of this really thick gray strap for some of the more larger pieces on the shoulders. And then about 5.5 yards of this thin gray strap because there's a lot of various, almost lace work on this costume. Some rings. 2 round rings that I'm going to use on the back of the costume that hooks together the 2 shoulder straps, the bottom strap, which goes to the belt. That belt is clipped on with a swivel hook, which I'm going to probably paint silver because the ones that were in metal cost an extra like $2. So I'd rather paint it than have to spend more money. 2 rectangular rings, 2 rings with slide buckles, that'll be for the red straps. Triangle rings, which will attach to this big ring in the back. 2 scrap bundles of blue and gray fabric, each one about 99 cents. That's just for extra fabric that I need. Some foam sheets for the star, as well as the various muscle protrusions out in the ab area, as well as some blue foam for the extra shoulder pad pieces, just to give it a bit more structure to it. Got a lot to work with. Let's piecemeal this out and start thinking about how I want to tackle adding this all to the costume. I think I need to start off by actually adding the white torso section. So I'm going to take some of this white craft foam. I'm going to cut out the shapes for the extra muscle padding, and then take my extra off-white ivory shirt and sew the torso section on. I have the muscle padding design laid out. What I'm gonna do is probably cover them with some scrap pieces from the off-white shirt to give them that same look as the torso. And then when I sew down the main piece of the ivory torso, I can just glue these pieces down on top of them to give them the exact same look. I think that looks pretty good. So by the way, what I'm doing is I'm cutting extra fabric and then I'm just gonna fold it over the edge of the foam and glue it down. That way I have a nice clean surface on the front. So let's do the other 1, 2, 5 pieces. All right, we got our set of covered muscle pads. Are these superfluous? Yes, but it's these kind of details that make the costume really look good. Now let's do the main torso bit. This I'm kind of nervous about because I have to really think through the shape of it before I even make one stitch. update time. I think it's coming along pretty well. About halfway through stitching this piece on, I realized, oh crud, I have to make sure there's a seam in the middle for me to get in and out of this costume because the zipper's in the front. So I had to actually cut this down, attach some Velcro right here on those sides. These little pieces down here are these like almost inverted pockets. They'll actually be stitched behind the back. Also, the collar and neckline, I changed it from the original jumpsuit. I actually added this little flap here so that the neckline is almost like a turtleneck because that matches the costume better. Another piece of Velcro here as well. It's not that tough to get in and out of, which is a great sign. So what's next, I'm going to add the little pieces of muscular foam that I cut out earlier today. I'm also going to add the pattern in the back, the off-white, and then I also might start doing some extra line work on this torso piece, which I'm really excited about. I think this is good progress for today. Tomorrow I'm going to try to work on some of the straps and actually maybe do some shoulder pad work. So, see you then. So it's a new day, gonna work more on the costume. Sorry I'm a little bit sick, so my voice is gonna be a bit quieter, a bit more subdued, and probably a lot lower energy. But I feel like working on straps and shoulder pads is a relaxing activity, so it might, make me feel a lot better. So I think my first goal is to detach the shoulder pads from this chest piece because I need them to be independent of each other. I think I'll do it this way actually because it extends down my forearm. The actual pad extends down the forearm, so I might do it that way. I'm gonna stitch this little tail here to the collar of the costume. That way it has some sort of attachment. And then all the other straps can just be secondary. This is part of the costume process where I have to kind of keep taking it on and off because I don't have a full-size mannequin to make sure the shoulder lines up. So let's put this baby on. This needs to be closer up to here then. in order for that to work. It's be a whole lot easier when they're actually attached to me. So what I've done is I've stitched this elastic belt that I got at Goodwill through the foam, the blue foam that I added. So this will act as both an arm sleeve for me, as well as it'll actually kind of attach the shoulder pad piece to my arm, so it doesn't really go all floppy around. Careful, kids. I have to cut through this shoulder pad a little bit. There we go. Look at that. So now I can fish through my little strap, my second strap. Okay, the strap's a little bit tight. Let's see if I can loosen it a little bit. Some emergency reserve. Careful. Yeah, okay. Now, I need to add some of this elastic here. So after far too many attempts for me to be proud of, I finally got a arm strap that I like. So it turns out that functionality actually was the winner here. I used an actual belt clip, so this thing now works. So I can tighten the arm strap if need be, or I can loosen it, which means I can keep it super loose when I put it on and then tighten it up as need be. As for the top of this, I'm not worried about it looking dirty right now or messy because I'm going to cover the entire thing in felt anyway, or fabric at least. So the next step looks like is going to be to add the actual front straps, which again, I'm going to go functional with it. I'm going to attach the gray strap to the top, the red strap to the bottom, and have a buckle / belt clasp in the middle so I can actually tighten it up and loosen it if need be. Yay! Finally adding some red to this costume. I'm already feeling a lot better about this. This morning I was like, is this gonna work? There's a lot of straps, but now we got something going. Got these slide belt buckles. I'll pull this off. So I could just attach it to down here. Just literally sew it to here, and then just have some extra I can just kind of fish it through. I think I might do that. Another plus side of constantly trying the costume on is I'm getting used to, one, how to put it on pretty efficiently and comfortably, and two, making sure that all my seams still are holding up. So if anything were to break, it'd be during these multiple try-on sessions. Honestly, these shoulder pads are the more uncomfortable part of this costume. Everything else feels great. Gonna do that. Yeah! That feels good. I'll get an actual thicker belt, but that was pretty good. But now I can take this piece, loosen it a little bit, and then see, can I actually tighten a latch behind my back? This is looking pretty freaking cool now. It's got a little, might add some more Velcro to this front piece now, but I'm super happy with this. Oh, heck yeah. This is a cool looking Captain America costume, at least for now. Got a lot more to add, but having real straps really adds some authenticity to it. So, I think I'm gonna call it for today. That means next time I'm gonna do the star, the detail work on the shoulder pads, some gloves, some boots, and maybe even a shield. So even though last time I did a ton of work, I still have quite a bit to do. Today's goals are to clean up the shoulder pads with some fabric and some detail trim, and maybe even add a star. So for the shoulder pads, I have some leftover blue scrap foam, which are actually the sleeves from the jumpsuit that I cut off, one of the first things I did. And I think there should be just enough fabric to cover the shoulder pads, as well as maybe add some of this red binder, because I think he actually has two circle icons on each shoulder. That might be only in the newer suits, but I'm gonna add it for a little bit of red color. As with a lot of this costume, I'm getting the best edge by folding over the fabric, the excess fabric, and gluing it to the inside, and then probably trimming off the excess, this flap here. I have a little bit of leeway with this part because there are straps, detail straps that go all the way around the shoulder pad. So I have a little bit, but I'm not gonna play it too dangerously because I wanna make sure that I have enough fabric for everything. So I think already this is looking so much nicer than the black shoulder pad with just some duct tape on it. I have a little bit of spot here that I'm going to cover up with the detail fabric. All right, let's do the other side. All Alright, now it's time to take the remaining, I want to guess, 3.5 yards of this silver-ish, kind of dark, it's dark white, straps, and add all the detail embellishments to the shoulder pads. They kind of connect all the various pieces in the costume, from the front straps to the back, and I gotta sort of think through and just sort of piece together each individual part. This might take a bit of time because I kind of have to be a little bit premeditative in how I laid things out. I'm not entirely sure. This is one of the few parts of the costume that I didn't entirely fully think through when I was designing, so I hope this works. So after a few minutes and way too many hot glue and burns to count, I think I have a shoulder pad design that I'm really happy with. I added a red circle on each shoulder pad. That's in a lot of the designs to the Captain America costume. I'm not sure if it's in all of them, but it's in enough that I want to add it into mine. Now it's time to add a star. I went to Target and found this in the dollar section. It's a small foam Captain America shield, but in looking at it, the star is kind of the right size. So I might use this as a template, if not a base for it. And then I'm going to stitch down one half and then Velcro the other so I can still open my costume up. But also I might use this red foam to go over the red dots, make them look a little bit better. So we are salvaging pieces here, and I like that. We're being resourceful. Carefully peel the star up. And again, it was only $1, so if I mess up, I'll drop another $1 down. Yes! Star. I think that's a great size. I think that's exactly the size that I want. This also saves me the trouble of having to draw out a mathematically perfect star, which I could do, and I probably would do it pretty well, but it's just better if I have a computer do it for me. It's kind of like, yeah, I can make my own pair of gloves, but I'm probably just going to find a pair of leather gloves that does the job for this costume. I think that's the actual perfect size for this costume. So in all of my costume reference photos, Captain America's star has actually two tones to it, a highlight and a shadow. I'm going to use both this white foam craft sheet and this silver craft sheet for the highlights and the shadows. Sometimes things don't work as well as you thought they would. I'm making this star, and I'm trying to use various colors of foam to get almost a 3D effect, and looking at it in person, it looks more like a color test than an actual depth and shadow and highlight. I mean, I might finish it to see what it looks like, but worst case scenario, I'll just take a piece of white foam, trace out a star from this, cut it out and use just white, and then have all the shines and detail work be done in, weathering effects as opposed to actual craft foam. But I might still give this a shot because actually, looking at it on camera, it reads pretty well. Maybe, I don't know. What do you guys think? Alright, here's what I ended up doing. I took a white craft foam star, glued it on top of the original white craft foam star. So now it looks pretty plain, but I'm going to detail it with, some brushwork and some different colors, some texturing, and some weathering, but now it actually has a bit of depth to it and a bit of strength to it. Now I'm going to glue and sew one half down to the costume and Velcro the other half. I think that'll do. But as with all big steps in making this costume, gotta try it on, make sure it all works. I'm very happy with that look on the shoulder pads. I am very much liking how this costume is looking. The shoulder pads can be moved a little bit further up my arm in terms of it's kind of being pushed and rotated towards my back because they kind of only cover the front of my arm, not the back of it, as you can see here. So I might adjust where this seam lays. I might actually undo that stitch and kind of push it a bit farther back. But other than that, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I would say the first, second layer of this costume are basically done. All that's left in this costume is a lot of leather and a shield. So you gotta actually add these belt pieces, various containers and pockets, holsters, and then of course upgrade the shield. But that's for another day. Okay, we're getting down to the wire, so let's finish this costume up. Today we're taking some old scrap belts and bags from Goodwill, and we are making the main bandolier, the belt, as well as the leg holster. So Goodwill this time, I lucked out like crazy, and I found a bunch of stuff that I could really easily use, especially this bag for $5. Not every Goodwill is going to have some good stuff, and you might need to go multiple times to your local secondhand shop because they keep restocking and finding new things. If you can't find stuff like this to keep your costume nice and cheap, don't fret, look again. If not, I was honestly considering using cardboard and painting it with a dark brown to make it look like leather, or making cardboard pieces and then covering it with like a leather sheet from a craft store. But I lucked out, especially with this piece. This piece not only fits me around the waist, but already has a built-in pocket for the main belt, which is super cool. So I think I'm going to take this Sephora makeup bag for $3. My guess is I can cut it down the middle in half, and then or maybe you can cut it like one. You know what if I cut this in thirds, so I have 3 different openable pouches, and then glue down the seams, and then I'll just have to paint it a dark brown later on. Work. So I just need to glue down this piece so that it actually makes a little pocket. Now granted, I won't be able to hold anything, but I guess I like the idea of having them actually open up and flap closed than I am about actually having them hold things. I think this belt is all set, albeit a nice brown paint job, because it is kind of weird to have a rose gold Sephora makeup bag very plainly visible on a belt. So I think with a coat of brown over all this, it'll look really good. Onto the bandolier. So looking at my reference image, the bandolier only has one big pouch, or one main pouch. I'm going to put that on top of the metal part of the belt because this is pretty easy to take on and off, so I won't need to actually unhook the belt. I think I'm going to use the big bag for this guy, or part of it at least. And then I'm just going to take part of the bag and use that as, make a little pouch out of it. Oh, I do like this piece right here, this little ring piece. I like that. I might use that. That's a nice piece to have. All right, just think through how I want to cut this up. Cut off this extra inside flaps. Put a zipper in there as well. Fold it over itself, perhaps. Now that's not bad. That actually looks pretty close to the reference image. And I just slap that on right here. That could work. All right, let's do that. So we're gonna glue this guy shut. Maybe even use some extra of the pieces to cover off the edges. This is part of costuming that I love. The little bits of experimentation where you're not sure if something's gonna totally work, but then you see it and you're like, yeah, that's how I wanna do it. All right. I like the way that looks a lot. Simple, but effective. So with the leg holster, my original idea, and kind of what I did with my Star-Lord cosplay a while back, take an old belt, wrap it around your thigh, fish it through. Because there's no hole to feed the little metal pin in, kind of put the pin to the side so it kind of holds some tension. And then take the excess and kind of just fish it up through the main belt. That way it looks like it's actually attached to the belt. And what I might do is I actually might just glue and or stitch the holster to the belt. So I make it all one piece. That way, one, it holds up better. Two, it actually just looks really nice that way. Now for the actual holster bag, the actual part attached to the leg straps, I'm going to dive back into this brown purse. I think if I just use this entire panel back here, and I kind of roll it into itself, I can make kind of like a not a gun-shaped thing, but yeah, kind of a gun-shaped little bag. I actually kind of like the various, I think they're like, not sequins, but decorative metal pieces going down the front, because it almost feels like rivets, actually. Alright, belt, holster, bandolier. Yeah, I think that's all the leather pieces for the costume, which means minus some weathering, this costume is basically done. Let's try the whole sucker on. Actually, before I try the costume on, I have to make one quick detour to Party City to get some gloves. I feel like these will be a little bit small and they might not go up as far on my form as I need them to cover up the shirt seam. So let's keep looking. I think I might go with these Darth Vader gauntlet gloves. One, they're on sale for like $6, so that's pretty good. Two, they go up the arm far enough. And three, I know they're black, but I can dirty them up and paint them brown if need be. I can get them look pretty good. So I think these are the winner. Well, I am super happy with how this costume is turning out. I do need to paint the gloves brown and weather the whole thing, but I am really, really happy with how this looks right now. So by this point, the costume, for the most part, is done. All the pieces have been put together, assembled, if you will, and everything works and fits. But it still looks like it's a brand new piece. It looks like everything was brought fresh, the whites are too white, the reds are nice and bright. Now it's time to dirty it and weather it and make this thing look like it was worn for years, if not decades. If you guys recall from last year, this is my favorite part of the costume process, so let's get right to it. We have two pieces that need to be painted first. We have these black gloves, these black Vader gloves, which actually, if you can see, I stitched part of the wide wrist down because it was flailing out too much, so now it actually, wrong hand, it now kind of fits my wrist a bit better, it doesn't fray out as much. So these need to be painted brown, as well as the Sephora makeup bag that I've attached to the belt needs a coat of brown as well. So I'm not really applying too thick of a coat of brown to these black gloves because imagine the black, the natural color of this glove, as a base coat and the brown as a highlight. You get this really nice, already worn down old leather look when you have these little patches of black that kind of stick through. So I'm going to try to do both a paint job and some weathering all at once. Now obviously I'm going to add some highlights, some lighter browns to this later on. But just for a nice base coat, I'm not going to go too far brown with this because I want to keep a little bit of that black peeking through. So that's a nice sort of dirty brown looking glove. I really like that look. When weathering, it all comes down to deciding what areas of the costume would naturally receive the most amount of wear. what parts you'd be moving the most, what parts would be in contact with others the most. The palm is going to have a lot of wear and tear because you're grabbing things. You're always going to be holding on to something. So the top of the glove might be a little bit more brown than the palm, or it might have a little bit less wear. However, the top of the glove is more prone to elemental exposure, so sun, dirt, grime, debris. The top of the glove might have some parts of leather that are worn down because of sun exposure, so I might have a bit more highlights on there. Whereas the underside of the glove, the palm, might have more just wear and tear. The leather might be breaking down there because of just constant use. Okay, let's let these gloves dry for a second before we actually do some weathering on them. And while we have the brown out, start to weather some of the belts, because there are a lot of different colors on these belts. We have some dark browns, we have some faded browns, some light browns. I'm looking for a more consistent look across the entire thing. So this will be a little bit of a process, trying to color it so that it looks like it was all one piece. So for example, we have this very dark brown leg holster that I apply some very gentle brushes of the light brown. And again, you have that sort of base coat, top coat, kind of dirtied up a little bit. And I'll apply a lighter brown to this as well, maybe even a black. The key is just to almost splotch it. Little splotches really go a long way in making it look like it's a bit more worn down. Okay, just doing the outside, not the inside, so I can actually hold it up. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Next up is the bandolier, which I'm probably just going to add, because this is a really dark piece already, so I'm probably just going to go into our mid-color brown, just for a little bit of dirt and shine. Okay, actual costume time. The parts that I think are going to have the most amount of wear are chest area, where those little muscle pads are. The elbows and joints in the arm are going to have some wear and tear to them. The stars are going to have some wear and tear. The straps I need to dull down quite a bit. Any piece that's metal and bright. And the shoulder pads, any area under the shoulder pads as well. Knees, any joints are going to have wear and tear, because that's where the fabric is being stretched and pulled the most. So I'm going to start off with a very gentle coat of almost this light brown. I want to work my way darker and darker if need be. If I start too dark, it's kind of hard to add light back on top of it. So I'm going to start light and then move dark if I need to. For the red straps, you might notice that I'm taking a little bit of black, and I'm actually just painting the edges of it, almost like it's a little bit burned, but it gives a really nice worn look to it. This midsection, I'm very happy with. A lot of the edges, I'm adding dirt and wear to it, because that's where it would get it the most. Anywhere that dust and dirt can get into, I'm adding some weathering. So I'm careful not to cover up or paint the Velcro. If you are sewing a costume, now is a good chance to take a look at where the stitching is starting to weaken, because one, you should probably restitch that up and get it firmer, but two, it's an excellent indicator of where wear and tear would be. For the front, that's pretty good. I do need to do the star. So I have this silver and I have the black, and a new brush actually, because I need to add some combination of weathering, but also shading to the star. And this is going to be a bit more of a delicate process because I'm not entirely sure how this will turn out. I just stuck my thumb right in the cap, and now it is silver. Let's add just the tiniest smidge of black right on these edges. That I love. Okay. Dude, that looks really cool. Okay, star's done. I think that's a lot of weathering done for today. Before I go all night doing this, I'm gonna let the front dry, let the gloves dry, let the belt dry, and tomorrow we'll do the back. The back has been weathered and is now drying, which means the outfit is basically done. I'm really happy with how it turned out, but this does not mean the costume is done. We still have the shield. For my cheap Marvel props video, I repainted the front of the shield, but the back still needs some work. So I have a can of silver spray paint. I'm gonna give the back a nice coat of metallic silver to give it a nice metal look, and then maybe even use some leftover leather straps to just hide the elastic a little bit, maybe even tighten the elastic too. Okay, this is it, the final costume fitting for Captain America Halloween 2019. Now, I have a tradition that I will not wear the entire costume until Halloween actually arrives, and that's the case today. I'm not wearing the shoes. I can't get my foot that high. I'm not wearing the shoes that I'm gonna wear on the actual day of. I have some hiking boots I think would be perfect. But other than that, shield on. This is it. This is the whole costume. I'm gonna finish the back of the shield, which I think looks pretty nice. I used dimes as rivets, and I'm really happy that I did that because it's kind of a little fun touch, but it fits really well. And I could not be happier with this costume. I think it was one of the more deceptively difficult costumes, where Spider-Man looked easy and was pretty easy, Thor looked tough and was pretty tough, Captain America looked easy-ish on the surface, but was really tough the more and more you got into the layers. You know, actually putting usable straps on here, finding a way to have it look seamless in the front, but be able to undo it. Shoulder pads, putting them in the right position, dirtying everything up, having the straps look nice, and of course my kind of mortal enemy, stitching, sewing. You know me, I'm more of a hot glue guy, but I actually had to pick up a needle and thread for this costume, and considering I'm not that much of a seamstress, and that everything's still holding up, nothing's falling apart, all the seams, even the first ones I did on my arms, are still, together, I give myself some props for that. I think I finally learned how to sew. Good morning and happy Halloween to you guys. Before we get the costume... Thanks. Before I get the costume all packed up and get ready for work, a couple logistics. One of the reasons I pushed to finish this costume so early was because Lindsay and I were actually moving the last weekend of October. So I kind of had my time occupied with packing and moving. So welcome to the new place. I'm sure I'll talk more about it in my next video, but the costume made it over. It's safe. Gotta pack it up and put it on at work. I'm actually wearing two costumes to work today because our office is having a decorating contest in our room, which is the chapel room. We're doing a haunted wedding theme, so I'm wearing all black as a patron, a guest of the wedding. And then I have Captain America because, well, spent a month on it, might as well wear it. And for the second consecutive year in a row, Lindsay will be a butterfly for Halloween. Flutterby. A flutterby. So last year I had to be pretty careful with packing the costume up because it was kind of fragile. A lot of the foam pieces could have fallen off at any moment. This year, I feel like Captain America is a little bit more sturdy. It can take a bit more damage, so I think just a trash bag will do. Also, I had some ideas for some last minute touches to the costume. Nothing big, but in the Marvel Phase 1 Blu-ray Collection box set, there are a ton of extras like papers and fake clippings and newspapers, and there's a couple Captain America things in there that I think would be a really nice touch for this costume. Perfect. Welcome to the Haunted Chapel Room. Excuse me, spiderweb. This isn't even the whole thing. We actually have a bunch of studio lights kind of hidden around the room, so when the lights go off, we can turn these guys on and give it a nice haunted glow. We also have two projectors, one for a haunted minister and one that'll actually project onto these paintings and give them skulls. Got a little dead rat right there. But it's time for me to get in costume. There we go. Costume's on. Feeling good. I think this actually might take me more time to put on than Thor did, but we're holding up. This is it. Well, time to work. So I think overall this costume cost about $70 to make, which may seem like a lot, but think of it this way. I'm currently on partycity.com right now looking at other Captain America costumes. We have this boys classic costume for $30, we have this toddler costume for $30, we have an adult size muscle costume for $50. We have Infinity War costumes for $30 and $50. And none of these look that good. I mean, they look fine in the pictures at least, but when you get them, it's all one really thin jumpsuit that just has some muscle padding on it. The Avengers Age of Ultron Captain America Halloween costume XL. This looks pretty good, at least in the photo. It's probably all just kind of felt and padded. I imagine the shield is not included. And it cost $60. $10 less than what I'm paying for right now. Here we go. The adult Marvel Captain America Heritage Costume XL. This is one of the better looking pieces, and it costs, $379. Suddenly, $70 and a little bit of hard work ain't looking too bad. I'd say today was a really successful day. The costume held up extraordinarily well. The shield had a bit of some damage on it because, it's hot glue on plastic and paint, and it's not going to be the strongest hold. But all the seams held together, the costume held up. The office looked incredible. Our room was awesome. Our team also won first place in the decorating contest, so go creative. In terms of the costume, I think this year was one of my best because it just looked great. It felt comfortable to move around in. And, it really kind of made me expand my horizon into stitching and more planning in terms of laying fabric. Even though some friends make fun of me for the kind of minimalistic doodle I did in the first episode to plan this. But regardless, this costume was so much fun to make. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.